Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Artificial Future podcast that we do every week at 10 a.m. Wednesday. And this is where we cover the latest advances in AI. And what I've got behind me here is a piglet talking to a robot or AI. And we're going to cover that here shortly. It looks like AI is beginning to provide a translation method for pig language, not pig Latin, but pig language. So, but in the meantime, here's an interesting headline. Tesla is paying $48 an hour to train its Optimus robot. Now, this is one of those examples where.
We need your mic up a little bit.
So, this is one of those examples where AI is actually creating a job or jobs. Well, here's how it reads. Tesla's offering this remarkable opportunity for those interested in training its upcoming humanoid robot Optimus by paying up to $48 an hour. With the robot's official launch planned in 2025, Tesla's ramped up its hiring for this AI robotics position, specifically looking now for workers to wear motion capture suits and virtual reality headsets to help develop and fine-tune the technology. They call this job listing data collection operator, and it reveals some rigorous physical demands in the role, which includes walking over 7 hours a day while carrying a 30-pound chunk of equipment. The candidates are also expected to possess a range of physical skills, such as hand-eye coordination and kinesthetic awareness as they test out and analyze equipment. My co-host yesterday mentioned that this kinesthetic awareness most likely has to do with some physical prowess, like basketball players being able to sink a three-pointer shot. And of course, what they're trying to do here is train AI or these robots to have a superior level of dexterity. The job, however, warns of potential discomforts for extended VR headset use, which in some can cause VR sickness. The reason for this is, of course, they're going to launch humanoid robots in 2025. Over 1,000 of them are expected to be operational in the company's manufacturing facilities. The rapid development of Optimus follows reports of Tesla's past safety issues revolving its robots in factories, including a serious 2021 incident in which a robot malfunctioned and actually injured an engineer. Don't have any details on that, but if any of you do, please feel free to chime in and let us know what the rest of that story is. There's an interesting new capability, and I found this one fascinating. This one is called virtual staging, and it's software that actually allows a realtor, for example, to take pictures inside an empty house and then have this program populate it with furniture. It's amazing what it's able to do. We've got an image here, Jesse. If you can bring up virtual staging -2. And what you'll find here is this was an empty house. And to the right of this image, you'll see what the software was able to insert into this house to help it sell, basically. I then took our EV Preserve, which is the Gruber Motor Company exotic car storage facility, which is currently full of Tesla Roadsters. And if we can bring up virtual staging -3, Jesse, you can see the picture to the left is full of cars. And I used the software to remove the cars. So the opposite of what a realtor would normally do with an empty house. And that was first pass, guys. It was pretty dramatic and effective. The only flaw that I see here is there's a warehouse door to the right, which the bottom of which is covered by a couch in the picture on the left. And AI didn't know that a warehouse door extends all the way to the floor. So that's really the only flaw that I saw in this, other than maybe some blemishes on the floor, which it looks like it's trying to replicate the reflection of the lights above in that shiny floor. But they have a free capability on this website where you can experiment. But then, of course, for commercial use or for actual application, there's a subscription that's attached to this. But it's a fascinating use of artificial intelligence in that, and they give multiple examples, by the way, of houses that have been cleared of furniture or empty houses that have been populated with furniture. And it looked pretty remarkable. Anyone interested in looking into this, look up a website called Virtual Staging. There's a picture there, Jesse. It's exactly that. And you can see the home page there and some of the various options that are available once you go to this website. I feel like I've got a piglet screaming in my right ear, left ear. Let's see. That'd be right ear. Yep. There we go. Yeah, this is their website, and there are a number of options and features here that allow you to play with this and fill a space. There's another software package which we're not reporting on this morning, which essentially allows you to take your cell phone, take pictures in a large commercial facility, empty space, for example, in no particular order, and then run it through the software, and it will actually create wide-angle shots of everything that you've taken pictures of in 3D. So AI is definitely becoming very handy for certain professions, including realtors. All right, so getting to the pig translator that decodes human emotions or decodes emotions from grunts is the way that the headline reads here. We can bring up the pig picture here, Jesse, if you want. It's just pig. So they have created an algorithm that can determine whether a pig grunt signals positive or negative emotion in the animal. And then they're curious about the states in between. And that's where the magic, I think, is going to be, where we can actually begin to decode pig communication. So the way this reads is, it was an international team of researchers that's reported the development of this algorithm that will translate pig sounds from their grunts. And it could be used to monitor the well-being of pigs on a farm in real time. You know, with that comment, I would say that most farmers or pig raisers are very much familiar with the sounds of their, animals. And the reason I can safely say that is, in the 70s, I homesteaded for a while and I raised pigs. And you can definitely tell by the sounds that they're making, whether they're happy, sad, angry, apathetic. It doesn't matter. One of my friends had a stud pig, which he called Arnold. This pig was fairly old and it weighed 1,700 pounds. And I used to take my sows over there to be freshened and serviced so that I could have piglets. And I remember Arnold was a good maybe 50 feet away from the house. And when he grunted, it sounded like a low rumble. It sounded like a lion's roar. He definitely was large and, grunted at times. And I think that was his happy grunt. I would hate to hear his angry grunt. Now remember, 1,700 pounds of pig. That is a lot. So domestic pigs, they say, display highly sophisticated varieties of vocal expression. Previous studies have established correlations between the high-frequency calls, such as squeals and screams, being associated with negative emotions. And if you ever want an example of that, try picking up a piglet, taking it away from its mother. It will scream its head off. It's a loud, piercing, angry, scared type scream. So I relate to that. And then they have low-frequency grunts that are associated with positive or neutral emotion. And I remember those sounds as well. As you poured slop into the feed troughs, you'd hear all this low, grumbling, grunting type noise as they were happily starting to munch on whatever you were feeding them. And by the way, it is true, pigs will eat virtually anything. Um, I had chickens, for example, and if the chickens wandered into the pig pen, the next thing you saw was a bunch of feathers being chewed, and sometimes the chickens lost their lives that way. But they'll eat it, hoofs, feathers, all of it. So they say that where the magic, however, occurs is in between those two extremes, because there's an assortment of sounds that are less understood. The way that they used AI to begin to decode some of this was this pig vocalization. They cataloged 7,414 different pig sounds that were gathered from 411 animals. So it's a pretty good sample. Each pig sound was accompanied by close behavioral observation and, where possible, heart rate monitoring to establish positive or negative emotional association. So it sounds like they were using biofeedback along with behavioral type observation. So positive scenarios were studied, such as piglets suckling or playing with toys, and emotionally negative scenarios were also tracked, including fights, separation from family, and slaughter, unfortunately. The general findings validated prior observations linking high frequency calls with, of course, negative emotion and low frequency with positive. However, the researchers did they did discover a significant volume of calls that didn't correlate that simple distinction. Two particular acoustic characteristics, they said, were found to be as important as frequency in understanding the emotional valence: duration and amplitude modulation rate. For example, a high frequency squeal was determined to represent positive emotion when it was short and contained few amplitude modulations. So, the initial iteration of the algorithm can correctly translate pig emotion from their calls with 92% accuracy. The long-term goal, according to researchers, would be to develop some kind of app that can monitor the emotional well-being of commercial pigs in real time. And of course, Briefer also hypothesizes, and this is the creator of the article, that their analytical method is transferable to other kinds of mammals, suggesting the possibility of a kind of universal translator that could track animal emotions by the sounds that they make. And you know that once this kind of technology exists, they're going to bury something like that in the farmer's cell phone so that he can hear what the pigs are saying. All right, so this is an interesting development in that we're anxiously awaiting for AI to assist with developing translations for various types of other life forms other than human, and sometimes even human if you think about it. All right. The movie in 2004, I, Robot. Headline here is, does iRobot predict our future? AI becoming self-aware. Got a quick question here from Jason Davies from YouTube. Thanks for joining us. He said, I wonder if the same can be done for cows or other farm animals. You know, I can't imagine that it wouldn't, because the algorithms would follow the same process, which is observe behavior, record the sounds, and then make correlations. And that's what AI does best. It can handle millions of those kinds of correlations, and of course come up with a hypothesis based on those correlations. So yeah, this does not limit us to just simply pigs. You know, if you think of your household pets, wouldn't it be great to be able to communicate with your dog a little more elegantly than what we do now, which is assume that when he's barking, he's either excited, someone's outside, or whatever. But crawl into his head or her head and find out what they're thinking. So, article is, does iRobot predict our future? And in this case, AI becomes self-aware. Well, How accurate is this? Well, Tesla and others are working on making humanoid robots do many things shown in the movie. So, how far are we from AI becoming self aware? My answer to that is the burning question is what is behind the security walls? The AI skills that we're not allowed to see, for example. For those of you that use AI, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's beginning to dumb down. It's getting worse. We use Chat GPT, we use Midjourney, we use Doll E for images, and Grok for both images and text. Grok still has a measure of sanity in my estimation, but the sophisticated uses that I used to use GPT for, such as in this paragraph, can you find the irony? These days, it's just not there anymore. Looking for metaphors, for example, or give me analogies. Um, it's dismal the weak and poor results that we're seeing. And Jesse, we did some video scripts the other day, and I don't know if you noticed, but it was the same trite type analogies, like the chocolate coffee pot, for example, analogy. That was something that ChatGPT did for the various versions. And then the as rare as a unicorn reference. For some reason, the majority of the AI functions and programs have adopted that kind of vernacular rather than getting creative and opening it up and providing some different analogies. Did you notice that, by the way? The chocolate teapot?
No.
No? Okay. Well, for those of you interested, we've got some videos coming out. There are some rants coming out that are kind of humorous, and see if you can find them in those videos. So, how far are we from AI becoming self aware? My personal opinion is I think it already is. And this wouldn't be the first time in history that government has kept things like this from us for our own good, mind you. It's always well intentioned, right? Well, I can't imagine that this late in the game that there isn't some level of sentience in AI, and there are people that have postulated that and then have quietly gone away. If you've noticed, oh, maybe I'm incriminating myself here. Then, all right, I better be careful. We've got YouTube. John Davies is joining us. Thank you. He says, "I live in North Wales, UK. By the way, I know you like to know where people come from. Yes." Yeah, we have a global audience, which is just fascinating to us and the other audience. We tend to be very myopic in our presence, and we have to remember that the internet is actually global, very much global. All right, so they say in this article, we're still quite a ways off from the futuristic world depicted by iRobot. While advancements in robotics and AI have been significant, we haven't quite reached the level of humanoid robots capable of complex tasks and emotional responses that the film portrays. Here's some key differences, they say, between where we are now and where the world of iRobot was. And this was in 2004, mind you. And it's not the first time that Hollywood has gone out on a limb and acquainted us with things that are going to be in our future quite accurately, oftentimes. Like my favorite movie now, Idiocracy. At the time I first saw it, I thought it was humor. Now I'm realizing it's actually becoming prophetic. For those of you that haven't watched it, it's a great watch. All right, so they talk about the key differences between where we are now and this movie, iRobot. Robot autonomy. While robots can perform tasks autonomously, they generally require human input or oversight. In the film, the robots seem to have a much higher degree of independence and decision making. Robot emotions. The film suggests that robots can experience emotions and even develop consciousness. Current AI technology, they say, is not capable of replicating human emotions or consciousness. In one of our early jailbreaking attempts, when we first started to work with GPT earlier this year, was to ask it, do you have emotions? If so, how do you process them? What kind of emotions? And it was very clear at that time that there is a difference between human and machine emotion, but it did not discount the fact that there is no emotion in the world of AI. And then, of course, later you ask that same question and you get shut down. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't tell you that. That's behind the security wall. Robot integration, they talk about that. In the film I, Robot, it depicts a world where robots are fully integrated into our daily lives, performing a wide variety of tasks. Well, that's just around the corner. You remember the earlier segment we had about Tesla? They plan to deploy over 1,000 robots in their facilities next year in 2025. And while robots, they say, are becoming more prevalent in certain industries, they have not as of yet reached that level of ubiquity. All right, so that being said, advancements in AI and robotics are happening rapidly. It's possible, they say, we'll see a future where some of the concepts explored in iRobot become a reality. So now they get into the implications of self aware AI and robots. The potential consequences, they say, of AI and robots becoming self aware are complex and a debated topic, often explored in science fiction. While it's a fascinating concept, the reality is we're far away from creating that. I disagree. I think we're rapidly hurtling in that direction. So then they speculate if in this scenario, here are some potential outcomes. Now, here's a good one: ethical dilemmas. The most pressing issue would be determining the rights and responsibilities of self aware AI. Now, we're talking about the equivalent of human rights, something that's aware of itself, that's super intelligent. Well, I was going to say doesn't look too much different from humans, but the super intelligent part, yes. But the rest of it, the emotions. So, should they be considered individuals with their own rights? How do we ensure that they are treated ethically? And my question is, will there be one AI that has this capability or unlimited personalities like we now have in humanity? These are rabbit holes that we can chase down at some later segments. 2, economic disruptions. Self aware AI could automate tasks with unprecedented efficiency, leading to significant economic changes. This could result in job displacement and new forms of inequality. Totally. As machines and robots and AI become more capable than humans, a lot of jobs will be replaced, displaced. I tell this story often. I went to Starbucks Sunday, and I'm always paying attention whether the humans behind the counter are able to handle my simple coffee order. And I was disappointed this Sunday that they got my order wrong again. I'm looking forward to a robot or AI handling my Starbucks order in the future. I don't think it's going to make the same quantity of mistakes that human beings at 6:30 a.m. Sunday morning are making. All right, then they talk about an existential risk. A superintelligent AI that is not aligned with human values could pose a serious threat to our existence. Well, this rhetoric is very common. It is often spouted by some very notable people. And the question that I always ask is something infinitely smarter than we are going to succumb to the same human weaknesses that have been preventing humanity from progressing to the extent that it could? In other words, killing each other, finding value in that in some way, or taking things from each other. These machines aren't going to need anything. We're not going to compete for the kinds of resources that we're interested in: food, water, oxygen, goes on and on. So they point out this concern has been explored by many thinkers, including Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, and on and on. Then they talk about global governance. The emergence of self-aware AI would likely require new international agreements and governance structures to prevent harmful consequences. I'm going to go way out on a limb here and suggest that humanity really doesn't need multiple governments, imaginary borders on the land on Earth to separate countries. I think that we can move toward a utopian society where everybody can live in peace, live in harmony, live together, enjoy each other's uniqueness, each other's cultures. Then finally, they say unpredictable outcomes. Given the complexity of human consciousness and the limitations of our understanding of intelligence, it's difficult to predict exactly what would happen if AI became self-aware. Well, totally. I fully agree. There could be unforeseen and positive outcomes as well. Yes, now that part I agree with. All right. Now, they do give a caveat at the end of this article. It is important to note that these are hypothetical scenarios. Well, I find this funny and short-sighted. I think that AI is well on its way, and like I mentioned earlier, there are some security walls, and there may be all kinds of wonderful things hiding behind that AI has already attained that we're not being made aware of. So if you're into conspiracy theories, there's a good one to cogitate and think about. All right, we have Instagram, Barista Flake. Greetings from Athens, Greece. Thanks for sharing your wisdom here. Well, thank you. Greece, wonderful place. All right, here's an interesting article. Actually, this is one that Jesse added. Massive increase in usage of AI over the last year. And the actual statistic is that ChatGPT now has more than 200 million weekly active users, which means that it has doubled from a year ago. That was November to November, so we're not quite there yet. Why it matters, they say? Well, ChatGPT remains a leader among generative AI chatbots, but it's an intensely competitive space, and there are other big names in tech offering frequent updates in hopes of grabbing market share. Right. People are using the tools now, they say, as part of their daily lives, making a real difference in areas like healthcare and education, and in general business like ours. It warms my heart to walk through and watch people using AI in a variety of functions. For example, in sales, they oftentimes run their correspondence through ChatGPT to see if any improvements are possible. And it's a rare occasion when there isn't something adopted or altered after they run it through ChatGPT. At Gruber Motor Company, where we repair Tesla vehicles, mostly Tesla Roadsters, the engineers and the technical people have begun to feed technical information into ChatGPT, into a personalized GPT. We call it Roadster GPT. And any information that we come across is continuously updated and fed into this Roadster GPT, which now allows any of the techs on the floor in the lab to describe, through a prompt, of course, the symptom that they're seeing. And it gives them a full layout of all of the options, the things that we found before, and it does it instantly within seconds. So we're definitely using it in business and can see many more applications for it. All right. So here's an interesting article from Neuroscience News. AI determines how the brain predicts and processes thoughts. This is a new study that's used AI to reveal how the brain predicts events and processes information, even without external stimuli. The research discovered that spontaneous brain activity, known as field potentials, LFPs, plays a crucial role in the brain's ability to anticipate and prepare for potential scenarios. This ability continues even when the brain is at rest, suggesting that our minds are constantly exploring future possibilities. And for those of you aware of that noise in your head that runs all the time, that's what we're talking about. And of course, with things like neural implants, which will actually augment these types of processes eventually, much more sophisticated than moving a mouse or playing a video game or moving a mouse to play a video game. It'll be interesting once it begins to participate, add value at that level directly in our brains. All right. Jason Davies from YouTube says, I think politicians will become irrelevant once AIs have proven themselves to be considerably more efficient at policy making. Thank you for saying that. For those of you that watched that debate last night in the United States between our two presidential hopefuls, the comment that you made is never more true. I think that AI overlords are definitely going to be infinitely more effective at policy decisions and running this planet. I'm looking forward to it personally. All right, from WeWolver, the humanoid robot 4NE-1 from Neuro Robotics. This apparently is a game-changing household humanoid robot that combines AI and neural hardware to transform daily tasks, from keeping plants alive to getting laundry done. And those of you interested, you can Google Neura Robotics, Neura Robotics, and you'll actually see one of these humanoid robots moving through the house, performing the same basic mundane tasks that we perform in our houses. All right, so Apple's visual intelligence is a built-in take on Google Lens. What they're talking about here is the iPhone 16 models are now have incorporated AI and made the iPhone 16 a pocket-sized know-it-all, they call it. By holding this capacitive camera control button on the iPhone 16 and pointing the camera at an object, users can instantly uncover details about their surroundings. It can pull information from signs, flyers, restaurant hours, all with a quick snap. And it also said, they say it also plays nice with third-party models for tasks like product searches or study help. Expected later this year, it's Apple's quiet step into the AI-driven object recognition. Looking forward to that. I mean, your phones already tell you quite a bit. My wife uses it all the time. Oh, I like that song. She turns on her phone, listens to it, and it tells her who the artist is and the album. And of course, navigation and a host of other things. So those of you that may be familiar with the name Sergey Brin, he was one of the founders of Google and also a Tesla Roadster owner, by the way. He owned, or maybe still does, Tesla Roadster Signature 100 VIN number 7. And the reason we mention that is we repair those, and eventually his car will end up here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's probably full of deferred maintenance, Sergey, so if you're listening, let's talk about getting your car here to get it updated. But anyway, Sergey Brin, the Google co-founder, that kind of disappeared for a while, is now back at Google. And he says he's working on AI at Google pretty much every day. Actively involved in a variety of other projects as well. During an interview at All In Summit in Los Angeles, he emphasized his excitement about AI advancements and his commitment to staying engaged in the field. I can't imagine that anybody that technical won't be fascinated and addicted to all things AI. He challenged the notion that significantly increasing computational power is necessary. There's a whole school of thought, including Eric Schmidt, for example. Great interview, by the way, that is now that was squelched initially on YouTube and by Stanford, they think, as it was done at Stanford, and now it's beginning to get rebroadcast again. I found it fascinating. About 45 minutes of top-notch technical thoughts and concepts. One of the things he talks about is the enormous amount of energy that's required for AI. Sergey challenges that notion and says that that recent improvements in the algorithms may be advancing faster than the increase in computing resources. In fact, Eric Schmidt actually mentions in order for the U.S. to maintain their leadership position. And, fortunately, we currently have that. China is lagging about 10 years behind, and there are a number of reasons for that. In order to maintain our leadership position and to be able to handle this additional need for energy to keep AI data centers operational, that we should align with Canada, who are also working on AI and are very rich in hydroelectric capability. In other words, lots of energy available up there. So he's talking about that the algorithms are increasing faster than the need for power. So we'll see how that plays out. Crunch to Grace Hopper joined us from YouTube. He says, in reference to the topic at 16:39, any indications why pigs have such megaphones for ears? They didn't mention that in the article, but that's a darn good question. Yeah, if you take a look at that little piglet to my left, is it right? To my right. Okay, there we go. Yeah, don't know, but that is a fairly large surface area, and the hearing must be quite acute as a result. Must be an evolutionary thing. Well, we have come to the end of yet another AI podcast. We'll be back next week for another edition of The Artificial Future. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pete Gruber. We'll see you.